Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and welcome back to another Doctor Who video. Now, in today's video we're going to be actually doing a full breakdown and review of the Robot Revolution, episode 1 of season 2 of the brand new series of Doctor Who. And I've seen a pretty mixed bag of reviews as I was sort of putting together my own review of this. Some people say it's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who ever, and some people are saying it's the absolute worst thing in the entirety of Doctor Who. Now, what I'm going to be doing is just fully going into this episode, and quite honestly, I don't think that this is the big opener of season 2 that people were expecting. I think it falls flat in a couple of places, especially to do with the writing and just a lot of other things as well that just really ruin the episode. Because for me, at the beginning, it was coming off to a strong start, and then as soon as the episode gets started and then it gets in, it just starts going downhill and downhill. By the time I get to the end of the episode, it doesn't feel like the best Doctor Who episode, and I'm going to be fully breaking down. I've spent over 2 hours actually breaking down this specific episode and breaking it into different points that I can read over and tell to you guys. So we're going to get down to probably the most in-depth review of this episode that will be out there. This will be a longer video, so do bear with. I'm going to be throwing up screenshots of the episode where to the points where I'm going to be talking about, so that you guys have it a little bit easier to follow along, etc, etc. This is kind of a new style of review for me, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And yeah, just before we get into this review though, please hit that like button and smash the subscribe button on this YouTube channel. I create Doctor Who content every single week, and now that Doctor Who is back on, I will be literally doing like multiple videos a week. So if you guys want Doctor Who content, or you like Doctor Who, or you just want to see how the new series is going, this channel is the channel for you. So hit that subscribe button, turn on the post notifications, and let's get straight into this video. Now, before I actually delve straight into my full breakdown and review, I had a look at a couple of articles which posted their own little reviews on this episode, and I'm going to go over them right now. And having seen the episode, I am going to basically say how accurate these articles were, because looking at them right now, they actually seem very accurate in some places. So let's go ahead and have a little look at this first one. So the first one says, anything that basically it says, anything that adolescents can do on Earth, Doctor Who can do in space and time. It did definitely give me some little vibe connections in some very specific ways to that show. So yeah, there is a little bit, but I wouldn't say that it is in the same way as Adolescence. It's definitely not the same type of story as it, and from what I gather from the show, I haven't actually watched it fully, but from what I can see, they seem pretty different. So yeah, the sci-fi favourite returns with an episode full of rockets, ray guns, killer robots, but the underlying theme of toxic masculinity. Yeah, that is definitely apparent throughout this episode, and in fact there is points in this episode that do suggest to me that they focus more on trying to ram as much of this messaging into the episode as possible, that they actually forgot to make their own story make full sense, because some parts actually do contradict each other, and we're going to fully get to that in my full breakdown. But yeah, it says Welcome to Planet of the Incels. Location unconfirmed, but presumably somewhere in the manosphere. Yeah, so this whole Planet of the Incels thing did actually get said. I'm going to say my full opinions and thoughts later on in this video, so definitely stay tuned. And yeah, so it says, those who criticises the reboot series for being preachy and over political are unlikely to be pleased by this unsubtle swerve into a culture wars. So yeah, that definitely seems like what they're going for this new rebooted season, because as far as I can see, we have messaging in basically every single episode yet, and it just seems very, very forced and unnatural. It isn't even written properly into the story in some places. So yeah, Doctor Who just seems like an absolute, I wouldn't say a shambles right now, but it's definitely up in the air for whether they're going to get renewed, etc, etc. But yeah, that's just a whole other conversation for another day. It's a shame because as far as episodes go, introducing new companions, the Robot Revolution works a treat. And yeah, you know what, I would say, to give it props, I do think that the idea of the Robot Revolution as an idea, and if you take all of that messaging out and maybe tweak some of the actual plot points in the story and change a couple of things, I think this would be a really, really good episode. But obviously it's not actually released that way. So let's go ahead and have a look at another screenshot right here. So it says, Verada See-Through makes an immediate impact as Belinda Chandra, the most reluctant TARDIS traveller in recent memory. Feisty and formidable, she takes no nonsense from the 15th Doctor. Yeah, there's definitely that is definitely worked in there. But one thing that I would say about this, I suppose, feistiness, is that it seems to be written for a reason. So it quotes, "I am not one of your adventures." Ironically, this is probably one of the least controversial lines in this episode. So she insists, and it's refreshing to see an intergalactic know-it-all on the back foot for a change. Again, it's a change, but I don't know whether it's that welcomed, because realistically the Doctor is always going to be the most intelligent person in the room. It then goes on to say, Belinda's apparently immunity to the Time Lord's dazzling smile and dashing charisma. I mean, you are pushing it a little bit there. It's still a magical moment when she sees that interior of the Blue Police box for the first time. Yeah, I would say that the ending of this episode was a little bit stronger. Again, a couple of little bits did ruin it slightly for me and taint my view on this, but I would say that the ending of this episode was probably one of the highlights of the episode, and I'll get to why in the end. Back in her teens, Belinda's ex-boyfriend named a star after her as a romantic birthday gift. This did happen in the episode. So fast forward to present day, the robots are leaving the far-flung planet to claim her as her queen. They kidnap Belinda in the spaceship, planning to marry her off to the Overlord. The AI generator, artificial intelligence, and male rage. Writer Russell T Davies manages to squeeze 2 Hot Pocket button issues into a 45 minutes of tea time action. Yeah, I would definitely say that emphasis on the hot button issues, because this episode seems to just revolve around 2 issues, more pushed towards one considering the outcome of the episode. It's the family-friendly time slot, which makes the lurch into gender politics tonally jarring and hard-hitting a hard-hitting Netflix drama is one thing, early evening entertainment is another. Yeah, again, like, if Doctor Who was a, like, okay, so, with a Netflix drama like Adolescence, it is basically advertised as this, so you know what you're getting beforehand. With Doctor Who, it's literally supposed to be a fun science fiction show meant for families, so that they can essentially, so that children can get something that's entertaining, and so that adults can get something where they can basically just switch off, push all of their life issues and, all of the real world issues onto the back burner and just sit down and enjoy 45 minutes of their favourite TV show. And the more that these gender politics are just dragged back into Doctor Who, the less fans are going to enjoy it. Like, you can harp on in this, like, little positivity bubble that, oh, Russell T Davies is back and he can't do no wrong. He's pushing this show in a really, really good, positive direction. Like, you can harp on about that all you want, but at the end of the day, the viewing figures are declining. And that ultimately means that less people are watching the show. This is something that articles in the past have gone and said, ooh, well, it's due to the weather. It's lovely weather outside, so less people are inside watching Doctor Who. And ultimately, this just sounds brain dead as an excuse. And the amount of Doctor Who fans who have said, I've been a Doctor Who fan since the black and white era, I've been a Doctor Who fan since the reboot, people my age who are actively saying, I was really, really excited for the 60th anniversary, but since they've started pushing all of these real world issues into Doctor Who, and really forcing it into every single episode, I've gone away from watching the show. No wonder the actual viewing figures are dropping on the show. And again, people at the same time to try and blame, like, streaming and, like, Netflix and streaming services like that, going, oh, well, people simply aren't watching Doctor Who on TV anymore because it's through streaming. But again, this doesn't hold up, because one of the big parts of Doctor Who that every single fan in this entire fan base will say is that there is a nostalgia to sitting down and watching TV. Even if you've already watched the episode, if the episode was that good and that good of an episode, you would make the effort to sit down and have this little nostalgic moment to rewatch the episode. And then we have this other statement right here, which says the opening episode of the new season of Doctor Who will be about toxic masculinity with Planet of the Incels, and have new companion berate the Doctor for scanning her without consent. Yeah, again, this whole point right here I'm going to get to later on in this review. And then it says, I'm not even joking, Doctor Who's finished, RIP Doctor Who. Yeah, I don't think Doctor Who is completely finished. I think that Season 2 is a strong point where they could turn this around. Keyword, could turn this around. If they handle this well, they really, really could revive this show. But from this first episode, it's destroyed any faith I had that Season 2 was going to revive the show. Because from the trailers, Season 2 looked pretty damn good. Like, all of the visuals, the interesting, overarching, like, big, overarching themes of this season, it does look like it could be really, really promising. But this first episode is like, if the rest of the episodes go on with this same boring, done-out theme that the rest of film and TV are trying to harp on at the moment, it really, really could do more damage than anything to the Doctor Who, the franchise as itself. So, yeah. But let's get on to this next part right here, which is my actual breakdown of this episode. I'm going to be breaking down this episode as well as I possibly can do. So, let's go into my personal review of the Robot Revolution. Doctor Who, the show that used to make me be able to just sit down and escape reality for 45 minutes a week, but now just forces political messaging into every single episode with lackluster plots and just flawed writing. This is my review and breakdown of the Robot Revolution, and for all them YouTubers who are gonna just throw insults at me because they can't bear to see anybody criticize this show and Russell T Davies, because Russell T Davies is back and he could never make a bad story. Yeah, this is actually as ridiculous as it sounds. Now don't get me wrong, Russell used to make some of the best stories in television back in the day. But honestly, as time has gone on and we leave the early 2000s in the past, Russell has started to incorporate more of his personal political opinions and views into Doctor Who especially. And in my opinion, it does ruin the show. I mean, look at shows like The Acolyte, which tanked and were flawed because they did the exact same kind of thing. They tried to hire a cast that was politically correct and tried to force all of these little references into Star Wars and then give this to Star Wars fans, expecting them to eat it up and give them the best reviews possible, when Star Wars fans just wanted good Star Wars. It's perfectly simple. Doctor Who fans just want good Doctor Who. But yeah, Russell seems too busy just shoehorning all of these opinions into the show to actually sit down and write some really, really good quality storylines like he did back in the day. Now, I recently made a big mistake, which was rewatching the end of Series 4, some of the best Doctor Who, just before watching Season 2, Episode 1. And God, that was a mistake, because the writing back then was actually good. Like, it was genuinely good. And I've seen other YouTubers actually going and now trying to somehow criticize Russell's past work and try and skew it to be like, okay, well, Russell's always had writing flaws, but if you compare the two different eras side by side, specifically on the writing, you will quite clearly see that the writing is just on a completely different level. And back then, episodes were getting overnight ratings of like 8 million viewers, and these are not specific numbers, but the viewership was so much higher back then, and you can't really just blame streaming or the weather for this. So let's get into this review and breakdown of the episode. We open the episode with a man who is supposed to be toxically masculine. The show actually forces this as one of its main plot points of the episode, which would be all well and good if you made this guy look, you know, somewhat masculine. Like, this guy doesn't have an ounce of testosterone in his body. To be fair, if you cast this guy, you could probably make it out a little bit more better that he was into the Doctor more than Belinda. Like, I'm sorry, but with some of these scenes, there is absolutely no way that he is actually into her. Maybe try Ncuti Gatwa, because he seems to swing that way a little bit more. Belinda's ex-boyfriend then gifts her a star. And naturally, as you do when you get a gift from your boyfriend at the time, she criticizes it. Now this is the start of a very long trend in this episode, which writes out Belinda to be this kind of unlikable character, because all she does is complain and bitch about everything. Like, I wish I was joking in this. I wish this was just irony or something, but no, this genuinely is like an actual character trait of Belinda in this episode. For example, she said, "Why does it say miss?" And this is the last thing that you would be thinking about if you had a gift. Maybe just thank the guy for your gift. Like, even if your gift is shit, we've all had them Christmas gifts on Christmas morning that you open it up and you're like, okay, maybe this isn't the best, but at least pretend to care. At least pretend to be like, okay, thanks. You know, I'm gonna cherish this gift. Also, I'm a bit confused as to why she asks why it says miss. I mean, it's literally your pissing title, for Christ's sake. Well, it's not going to say mister because you're a woman. It's literally a pissing title. And if you thought that was bad, then you're in for a treat for the rest of this episode. As the episode continues, Belinda is then set up to be probably the most miserable Doctor Who character I have ever seen. I don't think she ever made any positive comment throughout this entire episode, to my recollection, or even cracked a smile. Doctor Who in 2025. Now that is entertainment. The Doctor then bursts into the hospital as he then scans for Belinda's name and address. Later on in this episode, there is actually something that Belinda says about scanning without consent. No, I'm not actually joking. That's a genuine plot point in this episode. This then causes the entirety of the hospital to have a power cut. Like, it shuts all of the electronics down in the hospital. I'm assuming this actually includes maybe like life support or medical equipment. Which in that case, the Doctor just killed hundreds of people for the sake of doing something that he literally could have just used the psychic paper for. Like, I'm genuinely just thinking that Russell decided to put this in as a cheap joke, and I don't think many people laughed at it even. Like, Doctor, you have the psychic paper. You could have actually used it and maybe got the information that way. Maybe just say on the psychic paper you're someone important and you need the details of this patient. And you know what? It probably would work. Belinda then goes home from work, and do you know what? I actually like this scene. I think that when Belinda gets home, this actually does subtly, nod to an actual issue in the UK, which is the cost of living crisis. And I think this is done in a way that is nicely, subtly written into the episode. So, you know what? Russell T Davies, I've got to praise you for that one, because this one is actually well written. Even though that Belinda is in a well-paid position as a nurse for the NHS, she still lives in shared accommodation and barely has the money to afford basic food and all of that kind of stuff. Which is a touch, and quite a tasteful touch, on a issue in the UK. It's a shame it doesn't last in the episode. A huge spaceship then lands in Belinda's garden, and huge robots then smash into her house. And naturally, the first thing that Belinda does is belittle the robots and then accuse them of trashing the place. Yeah, that is really realistic, Maybe try and escape, run away. That might be a good alternative to just standing there and then belittling the robots, which could actually piss them off even more And considering they have massive laser guns in their hands, what's to stop them from shooting you for being an insufferable cow? Like, genuinely, that's got to be common sense. If somebody was pointing a gun at me, the last thing I would do is try to piss them off with some snarky comment. And this is what I'm talking about, that this episode is just sprinkled with writing that just doesn't make sense. And, like, either Belinda lacks common sense, or this is just poor writing. The robots then kidnap Belinda and take her to the space rocket, as we see Mrs. Flood. Now, this is a character which has sparked mystery for the entirety of Season 1, and they are keeping that mystery going throughout Season 2. And, yeah, at this point, she's cropping up, and, you know, it does lose its touch a little bit after you do, oh, it's another fourth wall break. How mysterious and edgy. Yeah, that just, it just gets to the point where you're fourth wall breaking like 3 or 4 times now. It just loses its touch after a while. It's the same thing as Ncuti Gatwa crying in every episode. If you do something a lot, it loses its shock value. Russell T Davies of all people should know this, because he actually wrote emotional scenes very, very well back in 2005, but seems to have lost all of that now that we're in 2025. And then Ncuti Gatwa turns up in his skirt to save the day, but fails, so he has to chase after her in the TARDIS later. But as we fly down the colon of time into the back passage of the universe, another thing I've got to mention as well, like, you've got this huge Disney budget, please just at least change the Doctor Who logo in every season of the title sequence. It's literally been the exact same, but they've like slightly tweaked tiny little bits of it. The Doctor is then chasing the spaceship with Belinda inside of it. You know, Belinda being Belinda, she is blaming everybody else in the universe for being captured and taking absolutely zero accountability. I mean, this woman literally made zero effort to actually escape the robots. Like, she could have jumped a wall, she could have ran out of another entrance of the house, but she just sat there, belittled the robots, and then walked with them to the spaceship. Also, I'd like to basically say here that the robots conveniently use this spaceship to come and get Belinda, that conveniently also happens to have a chair that would fit a single human inside of it. Now, the robots obviously do not need these chairs. The humanoid type people on this planet also don't need to use these chairs because they have never actually left the planet and have just been basically existing on the planet under the robots. So why does this spaceship actually exist? Because to me, this spaceship just literally exists because it needs to make the plot. Like, okay, maybe it's not the most laziest writing, but it is a tad lazy. Like, they could have used a transmat beam or some sort of teleportation device to take Belinda up to the planet. Which, by the way, guys, the robots actually have this technology. It's available and on their planet and works very, very well at transporting people. But instead, they went to build a space rocket with a chair just to get Belinda, so that she could just so that you could get that shot out of the window where the TARDIS is flying by, and that they could have that scene where the time is like fracturing. This literally is the only reason I can see for them using this spaceship. Also, if you are watching this video and all of these little writing inconsistencies piss you off, and maybe you just want a good Doctor Who film or series to watch, I have an announcement coming later on in this video where I'm going to be talking a little bit about my own Doctor Who project, which I am going to be creating in the future. So stick around until the end of the video if you want to actually see what that's all about. So yes, Belinda finally arrives at the planet, which is conveniently named after her. Basically, the planet was named after her. And the first thing she does is just instantly complain again. When I say this is a character trait of Belinda, I'm not joking. The amount of times she complains in this singular episode genuinely makes that a character trait of her. And if you complain all the time, you're going to generally be seen as unlikable. Unless, of course, you've got to complain because your favourite TV show is being completely fucked up. That is actually a valid time to complain. Yeah, this woman literally fails to take accountability at any pissing opportunity. She then refers to the robots as goons. I'm pretty sure that the robots are supposed to represent men in this episode. It's kind of obvious later on when the AI controller is revealed to be a bloke. And then number 2, calling a robot a goon doesn't actually make sense, as robots, you know, they don't have a conscience. So calling them stupid, foolish, or awkward literally makes no sense and is stupid because they're robots. They also seem vastly more intelligent than she is because they know how to, you know, travel between planets, and an NHS nurse is not going to have knowledge on, you know, controlling spaceships. Up to this point, I actually liked the idea of the story being through Belinda's eyes, but as the story goes on, it just seems to get worse and worse. Also, the main villain of this episode is the AI Destroyer, which is literally a metaphor for men. And this is about as subtle as wearing bright pink camo to hide in a bush from enemy soldiers. Now, here's something that I actually really liked about this episode. They introduced a twist where the robots could not hear every 9th word. And I think this is actually a very creative way of communication. Because if they can't hear every 9th word, then you can effectively use that to communicate and escape, which they did in this scene. It's just a shame that they used this specifically for this scene and it never crops up in the episode. It's like the episode completely forgot this was a thing and they used it this one time to get it out, to get the Doctor and Belinda out of this situation, and proceeded never to use it ever again in the episode. They do something similar with Alan, but not the same, and not used in the same way. The rebels then pull out their guns, which they somehow all manage to sneak guns past the robots. Like, do the robots just have no security or awareness? Because every single person in that room managed to sneak a gun past all of these robots. Yet somehow they managed to track Belinda across the universe. That doesn't really make that much sense. And then people drop from the roof, which, again, that brings up more questions because, like, how did the people get up to the roof in the first place without being seen by any of the robots? And then how, like, wouldn't these robots guard all of the easy access points? I genuinely think that the holes in the roof were only there to solve as a cool plot point where people can drop from ropes from the roof. Like, I genuinely think that was only there so that it would look cool. Like, okay, if they found a really cool, interesting way to get into the building and sneak up through a grate or something in the floor, or like a viaduct in the ceiling, or like an air duct kind of thing, then yeah, really good plot point. But the fact that they just smashed some glass and just dropped from holes in the roof that were conveniently unguarded by the robots, it all just seems very, like, not well written, because you can just literally take a point like that and poke holes in the plot, which you shouldn't be able to do with a show which has been running for 60 years and is considered like the biggest sci-fi show in the world, really. By the way, this entire fight scene also seems like basically a cheap excuse for a really cool fight scene so that this woman gets some time on screen before she's instantly killed. Yeah. And then for some reason, the audience is supposed to care. Like, this woman has been on screen for 5 seconds and then is killed, and then we get some big emotional shots where everything goes slow motion because the audience is supposed to care. Well, we've seen this person we literally barely know anything about this person other than they want to travel with the Doctor and that they know the Doctor for 6 months. We literally know nothing else about this person. And I've seen a ton of people as well saying, oh, but they have off-screen chemistry. Well, I'm sorry, but you're writing a television show. You're supposed to actually show things and not just tell them. And if they had simply positioned the death later on in the episode, maybe she gets killed by the AI destroyer, maybe, or the AI overlord, sorry. Maybe that would be a really, really cool way to you know, make an impactful death. And then actually show her character development. Show flashbacks of them, this person getting to know the Doctor, show them bonding a little bit, and, you know, really strengthen this character, just like they did in Joy to the World. I think they did that well in Joy to the World, but in this episode they did absolutely zero fleshing out of this character. They just said, here's a character, we're supposed to care about them because she's known the Doctor for 6 months. Here, we're gonna kill them, you got to care. And we don't care, because we've seen them for 5 seconds on screen. Also, another thing that did confuse me about this episode as well, is that the Doctor just willingly sacrificed multiple people's lives to save some woman that he met in a previous episode for about an hour. Yeah, the worst part is that she'd probably blame him for saving her life. It really wouldn't be a surprise to me, because that's literally all she's done throughout this entire episode so far. Blame other people for situations she's got herself into. Or at least situations which she didn't really do a good job of trying to get out of. The Doctor then runs out of the room and grabs a ball, which also turns out to be a teleport, which, again, the robots have this technology. Why didn't they use it when going to get Belinda and have to make a whole spaceship for this scene? I don't really know. They could have literally just used a teleport. It would have made more sense. And they do that all the time in sci-fi films, and I suppose it makes it'd be a little bit more surprising for Belinda as well, since she didn't get the warning of the huge space rocket. And, you know, when you've got a huge space rocket landing in your garden, maybe it gives you a good couple of minutes to, you know, run out of another door, which I think any logical person would do in that situation. But not Belinda, because she's wanting to face the robots head on. And by face them, I mean insult them and accuse them of smashing up her house. Which, I mean, they did do, but if the, you know, big robots, you're not going to accuse them of something and, you know, provoke them into using their laser guns to kill you, are you? So yeah, they could have literally just used one of these, you know, teleport technology pieces instead of using the spaceship, which was literally constructed because the plot needed it to be. As the Doctor walks away, he starts to have a little cry because he can't control his emotions in every single episode. To the point where even people who really seem to push this series for some reason and say it's like the best thing that Doctor Who has ever done. Even them people have issues with Ncuti Gatwa crying in every single episode. The Doctor then turns off the polish robot to prevent the other big robots that want to kill them coming and finding them and slaughtering the rest of the people. Remember this, because it will actually become important in the plot later on. Belinda, in her usual character trait and fashion right now, proceeds to do what she does best in these situations: complain. Stating, things never change, there's always a doctor standing around whilst the nurses do all the hard work. Although I don't know what hard work you were referring to, because she literally just grabs a bag, moves about 5 feet, and attaches it to a pole. Oh, back-breaking that work, absolutely, isn't it? She then relocates somebody's arm because she actually has medical experience to do that, and then she calls it a day. The Doctor then uses a X-ray blanket to show Belinda that he has 2 hearts. And again, I've got to give credit where credit's due. I actually really liked this part of the episode because it's a fun, new creative way that the Doctor can show Belinda that he has 2 hearts without giving some huge exposition dump like he did in Space Babies. So again, another good part of the episode. But when some things improve, other things go downhill, I suppose. After arguing with every other person in the entirety of that room, saying that it was not her fault, even though the entire thing was literally her fault, she then goes and purposely turns back on the polish robot so that the robots that have guns and want to slaughter them all can find them. Yes, that's a great idea, Belinda. That will definitely make them trust you. Yeah, great one there. Honestly, I genuinely just think at this point that this is just lazy writing, because there are so many other ways. There are so many other ways that the robots could have located where they were without Belinda just giving away their location. This just seems so stupid, and like, if you were put in a survival situation like this, nobody in their right mind would do this, because it puts everybody else and herself in danger. So even if she didn't give a toss about any of the other people in the room, including the Doctor, even if she just cared about herself, it still puts her in danger of being shot and brutally murdered. And if Russell would have taken 5 minutes from writing lines about toxic masculinity and put it into actually writing plot points of the episode, I'm sure that he could have, figured out another way. Maybe the robots have heat sensors and used like thermal sensing technology to actually sense where the humans have gone. Or maybe the robots put a tracker on Belinda, maybe like a chip, or maybe they give her a crown as she's supposed to be like the queen, and chip that with something to where they can track her. Any of these reasons would have been significantly better than what we got in the episode. The robots then actually come to the place, and when they do, she just instantly tells everybody that she did it, which defeats the point of, her sneaking off to do it. And not only does it defeat that point, like, this is not gonna help them trust you. Like, you've betrayed their trust, they already don't trust you, and then you go and literally betray their trust. But luckily, the robots decided to listen to her and just obey her commands. And that's quite lucky, really, because if they didn't, everybody in that room would be shot and dead, including Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor, and that would mean he'd have to regenerate earlier, which wouldn't fit the plot point of this series. So kind of lucky that, right? As we get into the next scene, one thing that I do really have to commend this episode on is its sets, costumes and props. The sets, costumes and props and all of the CGI and really anything visual in this episode looks, even the audio, sounds amazing. All of it is really, really well done. The sets are super well built and this genuinely looks really, really good. It's just a shame that the writing isn't held to that same level. Like, I genuinely came into this hoping and praying that this would be the big change to Doctor Who, that this episode would just be so much better. They kick all the, political bullshit out and they just focus on a really good Doctor Who episode, but that's not the case. Behold Alan, the man with the lowest amount of testosterone ever recorded in a male body. It is now revealed that he was gaming and the robots took him, and then he starts making these really stereotypical gamer comments like, "Oh, I can take over the entire world and I'm going to shoot everybody because I can." It then clicks in Belinda's mind that it's actually her fault. Like, it's actually directly her fault that the robots came and took Alan. And she is actually the reason that Alan did all of this stuff in the world. Like, it is genuinely all Belinda's fault. And do you think that she actually, for 1 second, takes any accountability for this? No. She just doesn't. Also notice in this episode how Russell finds it completely acceptable to use gamer stereotypes, but if it's used anywhere else, it's either deemed offensive and then makes them either a racist or a bigot. We then get a whole flashback scene where Alan proposes to Belinda and starts saying that if we're gonna get married, that you shouldn't wear like revealing clothes or something, and that she can't text after some certain time. Which, to be fair, if you like logically break it down, is actually quite a fair point. Like, if you're going to marry somebody, either sex, bear in mind, this does work both ways. If you are going to actually make an agreement to each other, then why would you want your other partner wearing revealing clothing and then showing, essentially marketing themselves for other people? Anyone who genuinely lacks logic in this situation would just jump to the conclusion that this is heavily controlling and that she can wear whatever clothes that she wants without any consequences. And in an ideal world, this actually does work. Like, in an ideal world where everybody has perfect morals, yeah, great, cool. He probably wouldn't even have to ask her to do these things in that ideal world. But the world isn't ideal, and there are creepy weirdos who will take advantage of women for wearing revealing clothing. It's a very, very sad reality that this actually happens, but nevertheless this is just reality. So ironically, him telling her this could actually save her from a couple of very, very uncomfortable situations. But the episode does try to just skew it in this way where that the world should just be ideal, and it just isn't. Because essentially what they're trying to say with this is that this guy is very, very controlling, and this makes him evil. Also, Belinda could literally just turn around and say no. You have that right as well. You could just turn around, say no, or, okay, well, I don't want to be with you, Alan. Simple that. Walk away from the situation and start your own life. But while she is getting blasted up to space with the robots, she just had to go and say, go and get Alan. Go and get him. Go and get him instead. And in actually doing that, she created this entire issue. So ironically, Belinda actually created the issue with Alan being in all of this power, and being on this planet because she actually told the robot to go and get him. Whether it's intentional or not, that is what happened. This is again just writing that contradicts itself throughout the entire episode. And this again is just feeding off people who just won't logically see things, who won't analyze things, and then just think, oh, well, if I try to protect my partner by asking her to wear something different, then I'm automatically some evil person. Which is literally just a ridiculous statement to make, especially in today's world. She then has a go at Alan for saying, all you ever did was correct me and complain. This actually seems very ironic, as this is what she's done throughout the entire episode.
I haven't even got the right person! You're not doing a very good job! Don't shush me!
I don't need you to fight my battles, thank you.
There's always a doctor standing back while the nurses do all the hard work.
So it seems when he complains and corrects her, then it is seen as toxic masculinity and coercive control. But when she does it to literally any other male character in this entirety of this story, it is seen as strong and empowering. Again, I think Russell completely forgot that he wrote this character like this throughout this entire episode, because it does literally contradict itself, because essentially she is blaming him for doing something that she has done throughout this entire episode.
I haven't even got the right person! You're not doing a very good job! Don't shush me!
I don't need you to fight my battles, thank you.
There's always a doctor standing back while the nurses do all the hard work.
Like, are you trying to purposely send the message out there that it's okay for some, but not okay for others? What message are you trying to push out here, Russell? It's very, very damaging. I'm not gonna lie. Belinda then says, and I quote in quotation marks, "Planet of the incels." At this point, I just physically cringed at this episode. Like, how on the nose can you be? I really don't think that they had to use the word incel, and using that word just takes away the seriousness of the entire story, because it essentially just makes it a laughing point, because from what I can see, that's how, like, all of the people who are in this positivity bubble actually perceive this as. Considering this episode's very dark themes in things like coercive control, probably shouldn't be throwing words around like incel. Also, I do just watch Doctor Who to escape, like, all this internet stuff. Like, I just try and sit down and escape this and just watch some good science fiction television, as the internet is full of plenty of incels spewing worthless opinions on so many different things. But you didn't need to ram this into a Doctor Who episode. Also, the type of people who laughed at this joke, or whatever it was supposed to be, because I'm actually still quite unsure on what it was actually supposed to be. Is it supposed to be some, like, laughable moment? Because it didn't seem like we're laughing with Doctor Who, we're more laughing at Doctor Who in this position. But yeah, these types of people are also the same type of people who said that they really, really loved Adolescence, the Netflix show, because it was all shot in one take. I'm sorry, but as somebody who genuinely makes films myself, films and series and all that kind of cinematic stuff, to say something like that as a reason for liking an episode of a TV show. TV shows and films have been editing, cutting their actual, their products for over hundreds of years now. And there's a reason why they do it. Because trimming out all of the dead space makes an episode flow so much better and allows for multiple camera angles and different shots that can be used basically in time with each other to help really tell the story in a compelling way. Yeah, it just really helps to tell the story. Maybe they just tried to cut the budget or something by not hiring a post-production team. Like, please, can we just go back to when Doctor Who was literally about telling fun science fiction based stories? Like, I just want to sit down and enjoy television. But it gets worse. And I know that's hard to believe in this situation, but it actually does. Now, you would think the Doctor, being the Doctor, would try to change Alan and, you know, bring him to a more positive point of view, maybe, where really they can turn him away from being evil. And ultimately, they could use Alan as a really cool 180 plot point to where he can maybe even save the day or sacrifice himself to save Belinda. Like, I genuinely think that would be a really cool way to end out this episode, and it shows the audience that, you know, people can change, and you can help people to change for good. Like, I think that would be a really good message to put in an episode like this. But no, they don't do that. They kill him and then proceed to laugh about his death. Like, this guy is a human, and the Doctor literally always, like, in every situation, he always tries to save people or help them, and this has been a trait of the Doctor's for all of his incarnations. I mean, literally look at Davros, who the Doctor tried to save, and that's literally the creator of his arch nemesis, the Daleks, who have slaughtered like millions and billions of people, and he still tried to help change Davros. Russell T Davies, in this episode, decided to undo one of the main character traits of the Doctor, and is one of the reasons why Doctor Who is such a good show. And effectively, this alienates Ncuti Gatwa to the audience now, because he's just the Doctor who is completely fine with killing people and has apparently no moral compass. So not only can I not take him seriously because he cries in every single episode, but now he kills people and laughs about it. This just does not feel like the Doctor at all, and any part of character development for Ncuti Gatwa's Doctor which made him feel like the Doctor has all just been essentially flattened because of this single scene. They then go back to the TARDIS, and Belinda then complains again, emphasising the word again, to the Doctor because he scanned her without consent. First of all, it's literally just a scan. The Doctor has done this before in the past, and actually 0 companions from memory have ever complained about it. It's literally sonic waves. I think he was just scanning to confirm that Belinda was family to like Monday Flint, I think her name was, from the previous season. Like, she made this whole big deal about it, which I didn't think necessarily needed to be in there. I think the only reason why it was in there is the whole, oh, you did this without consent kind of thing, and really just forcing another thing into the episode. At this point, it's like just one of many things in this episode. Then she literally makes demands to the Doctor, saying, "You will take me home," as if the entire thing is the Doctor's fault, when in fact the entire thing actually ended up being Belinda's fault. Quite ironic that, isn't it? So yeah, even at the end of the episode, after the Doctor literally helps to save her life by literally giving her the other scroll so that they can touch the scrolls together, the Doctor helps her to save everybody's life, and even then, at the end of the episode, she still complains.
I haven't even got the right person! You're not doing a very good job! Don't shush me!
I don't need you to fight my battles, thank you.
There's always a doctor standing back while the nurses do all the hard work.
And still cannot take an ounce of accountability. Then we get to the proper just ending of the episode where we find out about the new series arc. And to be fair, again, one thing I'm going to say, this was a really highlight point of the episode for me. Finding out that the TARDIS cannot land on the specific day on Earth, and this being like, okay, maybe Earth is time locked or something, and we start thinking through all of these things, like, you know, in the Angels Take Manhattan, the Earth is time locked, so they can't go back to a certain time because of the Weeping Angels and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, we get to this point, and then we find out that the Earth is actually destroyed. I think that is actually really, really cool, and it's an overarching story that I think could basically be a backbone of this entire series, and it holds some real weight as well, because they're like, well, how is the Doctor gonna fix this? Because at the moment it seems quite difficult and impossible for him to fix this. So yeah, they did a really, really good job on introducing this series arc at the end of the episode, and I think it was a really nice twist at the end of the episode. And yeah, I genuinely liked this part of the episode. And not to mention the absolutely stunning visuals, having like the Eiffel Tower, just broken cabs, like a taxi, all ending on the calendar, which shows the date, which is very, very interesting. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the episode, and if I'm going to say some final words at the end of the episode, even though this episode was not the best episode, I definitely wouldn't rate it massively as an episode, because when I sat down and went through this entire episode and picked out every crack I could possibly find in the episode and see like where these plot points didn't make sense, and all of the pieces that were in there that didn't need to be in there, and all the changes that I would have personally made to the episode, there's a hell of a lot of stuff in this episode which wasn't great. And from looking in and breaking down this episode, it's just further highlighted this episode's flaws and faults. However, I do want to be optimistic, because we have a season of Doctor Who that we can watch, and a lot of other people will be right, okay, first episode wasn't the best, that means the whole series is doomed, and I like to be optimistic. So let's hope that this series does improve, and I'm going to be actually going ahead and breaking down every single episode of this series as I have done for this episode. So we're going to be basically breaking every single episode down, and I'll just give my brutally honest opinion and review on it. And, you know, if it's really, really good, I will say that it's really, really good, because that's just how I am. And if it's bad, I'll call it out as being bad. That has been the review of the Robot Revolution, Season 2, Episode 1 of the brand new series of Doctor Who. A wild and interesting ride, an opener to Season 2. And I'm going to do a video very, very soon where we actually look at the overnight figures. We're going to see how people actually perceived this episode, and I'm going to do a video very, very soon on that. So stay tuned for that as well. Now, I said I was going to do a little announcement at the end of this video, and that is what I'm going to be doing. So, I want to create a Doctor Who fan film from the fans to the fans. And I want to create this in a way which it focuses on the story. We don't have any bullshit political stuff in it. We don't have any of this kind of stuff. We just create a good quality story that the fans can enjoy. And that is honestly what I want to do. And after the last couple of years of Doctor Who and all of these things, I think the fans deserve this. Although I don't have the funds to actually produce this series as of yet, if you want to support this series or this movie, etc., etc., because I do want to start off with creating a Doctor Who movie, and it will be a proper full-length film, and it will air exclusively on YouTube as well, so it will be free for you guys to watch, because I don't want to put it behind some like paywall like Netflix or something like that. Not that I think that Netflix would just commission my fan film. I don't think that's even legally possible. Regardless, I don't want to put it behind any sort of big paywall to where you have to pay for it, because I think that's just unfair, and I think the fans are owed this. So I want to give it them. So yeah, that is basically what I aim to do. And if you want to support this right now, we don't have anything like merchandise related out at this current time for this project. But if you want to support this project right now, then simply smash the subscribe button on this video, turn on the post notifications, watch all of my other Doctor Who videos on this channel, smash a like on this video and share it to people. It's all completely free to do, and every new subscriber from these videos or every like placed on this video just genuinely helps and means the world to me so much, because, you know, I'm very, very passionate about Doctor Who, and if you love something so much, you will criticize it when it is wrong, so that hopefully the show can improve in the future. But until then, I would love to create a Doctor Who fan film that fans can enjoy with a solid budget and a lot of passion and hard work behind it. So that is kind of my idea that I wanted to pitch to you guys. And yeah, if you want to support this and help me out, then subscribe, like, all of them things would be massively, massively appreciated. And yeah, that's basically the end of this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was a long video. There was a lot to break down in this video. So if you've made it into the end, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you people who have watched this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe as usual, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.